Are you kind to your neighbor? Is he or she kind to you? An academic study finds that Georgia is the #1 state with the kindest neighbors in America. Dr. Oliver Scott Curry, Chief Science Officer for Kindness.org, is joining me this morning and has all of the information about this topic. Good morning, Dr. Curry.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, thank you for speaking with me today. So tell us more about this research and what topics were considered during the study.
So the study is called the United States of Kindness, and it was our goal at kindness.org to find out how kind people were to their neighbors, how kind they thought their neighbors were to them, and to find out what the relationship is between the kindness of neighbors and how people feel about their communities and how they feel about themselves, how happy they are.
And the really neat thing here is that Georgia ranked #1, which is really neat to say. What were the overall kindest acts for neighbors that this research was able to identify?
Well, so the survey involved asking people which of a series of out of 22 ever more challenging acts, which things would you be prepared to do for your neighbors? Would you, for example, would you lend them a cup of sugar? Would you look after their house while they're away? Would you return lost items to them? Would you forgive them debts, that kind of thing? So increasingly, the scale of ever sort of kinder things you could do. And we looked at what people would, they say, yes, I do this, yes, I do this. No, I draw the line here. And people draw the line at different points. And we found that, so for example, most people say they return lost or borrowed items to their neighbors. Most people say that they would forgive them debts. About a third of people say that they would adopt the child of a neighbor if circumstances required it. So people were surprisingly kind across the board. And we found that all neighbors everywhere in all states reported being very kind. But there was a small difference between the states. And yes, Georgia came out top of the list.
Was there anything that surprised you or that you found interesting during this study?
Well, it was interesting that most people would have said that they would do most of the things on our list, and also that they expected that their neighbor would do the same thing for them. So the kindness given and the kindness expected was quite reciprocal. There was quite a good match. So that was, I guess, a pleasant surprise. The other thing that was surprising was just how good having kind neighbors, how good a predictor having kind neighbors was for your sense of community. So of all the things we looked at, income, political persuasion, which state you're in, your age, everything under the sun, how kind your neighbors were the best predictors of your sense of community, of how included you were in the community, how satisfied you were with your community, and of your well-being, of how happy you are. So it really did underscore how important it was to be kind to your neighbor and to have kind neighbors in return.
Why do you think people would do these kind of things?
Well, I mean, the general big background reason is that humans are social animals. We've lived together in social groups for millions of years, and we rely on other people to survive and thrive. Other people are our life support system. So we, not surprisingly, we're very strongly motivated to invest in our social relationships. We find it rewarding. Helping other people makes us happy, and we're prepared to do this because we all benefit when we all live in strong communities.
Very true. And what better study to do as we're heading into the new year? In your opinion, what's the biggest takeaway that you want people to learn from this study?
Well, I think the kindness pays dividends. So I think the study shows that everyone's doing pretty well, but there's always room for a little bit of experimentation. So some other studies show that people are probably a little less kind than they could be, and actually a little less kind than they would be. That they would be a little happier if they were a little kinder. So we encourage people, don't take our word for it. Try it for yourself. Especially in this season, perhaps just try a new kind act that you haven't tried before, and see if you like it, see if that's a good fit for you. The science says you'll be glad you did.
All right. Well, thank you so much for speaking with us. This is a really interesting study, and a lot of people may not know their neighbors, but hopefully this study will make them want to introduce themselves if they don't know their neighbors, because they might be surprised. They could be really kind, especially here in Georgia, since we're #1.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Curry.
Okay, pleasure.
We're number one.
We're number one.
Now, your kindest neighbors, right? So that means Carolina. South Carolina's your kindest neighbors. We're number 1.5. Okay, that would be what Carolina is.
Really interesting study. Yeah, you know. Well, we can't. Okay, so Georgia's number one. Then it's actually Tennessee,
Then it's North Carolina.
Arkansas, Utah.
Oh, come on, South Carolina.
Where's
Pick
Oklahoma
on
on this map? Can someone tell me?
up. Oklahoma.
Oh, right there, 11. Okay. Ah, look at that. Pretty good.
Well, come on now. South Carolina was 30. Oh, South Dakota was number 13. Oh, come on, Carolina.
South Carolina, you got to step it up. You're not
think
far
so.
from the border. Last state, Vermont.
Now, he does. You brought up a good point there because there are so many neighborhoods. People don't know their neighbors anymore.
Right.
How many neighbors, seriously, do you think about it where you live? How many of your neighbors do you actually know? I miss the old days when I was a kid. They would have block parties. You know, you'd get everybody together, you'd block off the area, and then you just get everybody would like have a potluck. We need to start doing that more. That's a good idea for 2023. I'm just throwing it out there.